That's weird. Did it work? I don't know. Let's see. It's weird. Usually it gives me like a little pop-up. Like if I start streaming, it says hit stop stream, or this looks different. Maybe the app updated here. Let me see. I do not know if I'm live. Looks like I'm live. Pop over here and we'll find out in a moment here. Got my old man glasses on so I can see what the heck's going on. Let me tilt the camera down just a tad bit. So you can see my buddies, my little zombie guy here, and Mr. Shaved Head guy over here. Let's see here. Skip it. Get out. Yep, I'm here. Okay, cool. I'm about to switch over. We're going to get into the meticulous part of doing some ZBrush. Let's see. I'm going to post this on the Instagram right now. So maybe some people will see it and come hang out since I just decided to sit down. All right, put the phone to the side and we will get to work. Let's see. So what I'm doing today is I am going to go back. Sorry, I gotta switch my stream to scene. And we're gonna go here and we are looking at EV99 again. Now, I did this file in 2017, 2018, so a while ago. And since then, there's a lot of things that I would do differently in ZBrush. And now that I'm making this for the Patreon, this is not my newest version, is it? This is not the newest one, is it? Let me see, there's the original. Something is different here. I might have to go load my other one. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can figure out where this file is, the newest version, because there is a newer version. Let's see. Probably saved it in the wrong freaking folder because I started a new folder for it in my Patreon projects. Let's look and see if it's in there or if I'm crazy. Man, hopefully I saved it. That would be a bummer if I did all that work and didn't save it. All right, we can do this. I'm going to go into ZBrush really quick and check my Lightbox and see if the previous version is in the autosaves, and I can just pull from that because that should be good enough. Maybe recent. Oh look, you guys aren't even seeing what I'm working on. I can't show you what I'm working on, but I got to do this without you looking because there's a lot of projects in here that I am not allowed to show. Let's see. I have to delete a heap of old projects because what happens is ZBrush autosaves over and over and over and over and over, and then you end up with like piles and piles and piles of old tools just hanging out. This is weird. Let's see, tool. Oh, I see what I did. Let's see here. Recent. This is from today. Let's see. This is very weird. It auto saves like crazy, and then this is it. All right, opening it now. Should be the version. I don't know where this is saved at. Very weird. Saved it in the wrong place. Totally excited. Once it's open here and I can look at it, then I can switch back over. I have too many things that I'm not supposed to show you guys. This is, let's see. Yeah, this is the newest one. All right, okay. We're in business now. Sorry about that. I will switch over back to ZBrush so you can see what's going on. So the whole point of what I was saying earlier is that when I modeled this, I did it differently than I would now. I've learned a bunch of things, and there's just stuff I would do to make it easier. So if you were here for the last one, you know that I'm probably going to redo a bunch of this stuff in Fusion 360, but I'm going to simplify the design for this, because right now this head is, 1.25 million polys, and it does not need to be that high. And a lot of these little pieces here can be made basically in a better way, cleaner, lower poly, better geometry, that kind of thing. So I'm going to clean this all up now so that when I put these files on Patreon eventually, it doesn't look like an embarrassing mess. So this is just the mundane file cleanup stuff. Let's see, we're gonna make a new folder for old/original, if I could spell. All right, so the original head is going to go in this folder, and so if I put it in a folder, I can just basically turn it off, and then any weird little floaty things that I don't want to look at, like this thing, scale reference, right? I can dump it in this folder, and I don't have to worry about it clicking on and off when I do other things. These are my little scale tools that I make in Fusion 360 so that I know things are as accurate as possible. So this is the old jaw, bring that in here. Cube, a lot of stuff. Let's see. Look, half this stuff is already in another folder. That's funny. All right. Where's this one? Cool. All right, so we got this little guy. It's a party. It's a good time. Actually, let me see here if this thing is. It's funny. Warning: stream's bit rate currently lower than recommended bit rate. Huh. Interesting. All right. I don't know how this stuff works. It's confusing. It's confusing. I'm new to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this head, put it in solo mode, and look at the poly groups here, right? So I can see all my different groups for the pieces. So like the little jaw, it's its own piece. And I'm going to split some of these parts off and redo them in a way where it's a little easier to control thicknesses and the way it prints, and it kind of have like my interior volume. So before I break it up, I'm going to copy this, duplicate, rename this one. Head/neck old. And this is my reference because this is, even though it's old, it's pretty accurate. I just want to like see these little warbles and stuff in the geometry. At the time I did this, two things is that I was not as knowledgeable in ZBrush. I still used it a lot, but for shapes like this, I would have done it a little differently. Also, I did this pretty quick, so I didn't take the time to go back and like fix everything because I was making a physical prop, and then I was like, anything that's messed up here, I'll just fix it on the actual item. And I got it really close, and then until I was happy, and then I went with it. So let's see, we're gonna go back to this guy. We're gonna take this one, and let me look at this really quick, figure out what the best way. I could just break it up by poly groups, but there's some stuff here that I don't necessarily want to be a separate poly group, like I want this plane here. See how this kind of wraps around? There's geometry that's kind of on the interior here that doesn't really need to be. It's not justified. So let's look at this guy. So what I'm going to do is break off these pieces. So I'm going to hide this. Basically, I'm going to split these into different parts so that I can work on them individually. Like this piece here. Let me see. And there's like chunks of this that are up inside. And if I simplify this geometry, if you look at it, let me see if I turn the geometry on, it's a lot of polygons. It doesn't need to have this much going on. I can turn this way down, and then this thickness, what I can do is control the thickness as a separate piece, and it gives me a lot of editability that, like this thing is ridiculous. This part here, we'll split that off. You see the inside's a big mess. All right, so split hidden, and this thing, same thing, split hidden, and this guy could technically be two pieces, but I'll break it off individually, split hidden. Let me turn off all the lines here. We don't need all that on. The whole neck, we're just gonna take off. And how I'm hiding and showing these things is basically I'm holding Control Shift, and if it's on Mac, it's Command Shift, and you just tap on the polygroup, and it'll isolate that polygroup. And then to invert it, Control Shift, and then I just drag outside of the selection like this, and it inverts the selection. And very, very, very handy tools. That's why polygroups are great, because on the same item I can break up the polygroups and then hide sections of what I'm working on without having to make a bunch of subtools, which is what I'm doing now, but it'll make sense in a little bit. We got this guy. Split hidden. Uh-oh. Phone is making noise. Hold on a second, guys. I'm probably only going to be on here for about an hour. Then I got to go back and work on my room some more. Let me see here. Somebody wrote me a message, but I don't know where it went. It's the problem. Sometimes my phone makes noises, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I'll get 20 messages and I won't hear a damn thing. Split hidden. Sometimes I get a message and I don't know where the person sent it to. It's great. It's great. All right, the neck. Let's see here. Why is it fighting me? There we go. There's the neck piece, split hidden. I built the neck tubes and everything in a way that were really easy to 3D print and without having to use any supports or anything. It was something that was important to me at the time. So like this guy here, this shape, I don't need, once I break this off, I'm not going to need that upper thing. Split that, split hidden. Now, this guy, this under part with the texture on it, I'm probably going to have to redo the texture in here. You can see it's pretty low resolution, only because when I made this, I made the top of the head, attached in pieces. So to turn the resolution way up kind of cost me a little bit, but I got this pattern under here, which the real one kind of has like this weird texture underneath, and I'm sure they used some kind of material they found on hand and use that to lay it in. Let's see, split it in. And now if you want, you can break this up by polygroups. So you can say split by groups, or right here, group split down at the bottom, and that'll break it into all the individual pieces. But I don't necessarily want them all to be separate. Like this jaw piece here, I want to be together, and you can see it's a few polygroups, and I don't want that. And now that I've got this, here's like this piece is actually the inside of the eye. I can recombine that with the old one. Let's see, split hidden. And then this, you can see, is a bunch of janky, like multi-faceted things, because at some point I merged layers together. But all these little weird little planes and whatnot that are inside the head, they don't matter, and they're really, it's not the best thing to have all those. Let's do this. So what I was talking about, like if I just did a big group split, come on, then like this, which is multiple groups, would get split into 3 different pieces, which I do not want. I want this to be one piece. So to make that one polygroup, Control W or Command W if you're on a Mac, and now it's a single polygroup. So now if I want to select that, I can just select that. For some reason it brought this, I don't need that. All right, so now I got the neck, split hidden, same deal. And what I'll probably end up doing in the long run is turning that tube that I just took out into a cylinder, and then use it as a Boolean tool, which will cut the hole back out in the middle. But I have already established kind of the size, so that's probably what I'm going to do here. All this stuff in this area is like the inside of the mouth, which is, again, multiple pieces for some reason. Okay, so we're going to take those. There's the inside of the mouth, and make that one polygroup. Split hidden. And some of these will end up welded together, and I don't think these two panels here, I don't think I need. There's this little chunk here that probably belongs to something important. So I'm not going to just ditch this subtool, but I will, see, got this polygroup. I want this and these guys to come along, and this is going to be the jaw. So I'm going to keep them as their polygroups, and then what you do is you say split hidden, and now all your polygroups that were involved with that part should remain together. Like this piece here, this weird detail thing, is its own deal. Make sure there's nothing in there, and split hidden. So a bunch of pieces. Again, this is like the most tedious aspect to this, but when you're making a physical thing, or even for a video game asset, you want the geometry to be better than what I have right here. This was good enough to get the job done at the time, but I wanted this to be cleaned up, nicer, and then fix some little goofy things. So I'm going to turn off the solo mode so we see all of our pieces. I'm going to hide the body. I'm going to say, let's make a new folder for this stuff. New folder, body stuff. Good naming. Okay, and I'm going to put that on hide. Basically, anything that is not part of the head, I'm going to put in that folder. Hips. It's part of the head. What is this? The back panel. That's going to go in there. Neck. I'll do the neck. I'll put the neck in there too. I don't need that at the moment. Can never remember it. Yeah, it does go into the folder. Let's see these side panels. Where are those? Let's go here. Some kind of ring. Yes, it gets confusing when there's so many pieces. So, more stuff I can keep organized, the easier my life will be. I don't know what this is. These are the pins. Extract. These are the pieces where, when I was making this last time, a lot of these shoulder pieces I would have done in Fusion 360, but I lost the original file that I started with, which I found since then, but at the time I could not find it, so I had to do some stuff in ZBrush that I prefer to do in Fusion. Let's see here. Next still. Oh, this is the old head. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this out. I'm just gonna turn it off right now. That should give us all these little bits. So now when I select a thing, you see the color, but this is actually selecting an individual subtool. So for like this guy, you see I did this little crease line. That's a big old pain. Like if I did this now, I would just make these two separate pieces and I would have a lot more control over them. At the time I sculpted all this and it was a giant nightmare. And same this piece here. This has too much geometry, so we're going to get this piece. This will be the first one we tackle. And look at this. This one piece is almost 1,000,000 polygons. That is completely unnecessary. So what we're going to do is going to go down to geometry. Z remesher is what we're after. Z remesher, and then I'm going to go Z remesher. I put it at adapt. It's 5,000. It might be too low, but the Z remesher does a pretty good job in cleaning it up and giving, you know, many less polygons, which makes it easier to manipulate. When you have a smaller polygon count, it makes it easier to manipulate the shapes in a broad sense. See all these weird little things going on here? Why is it like that? So somewhere the geometry is a little bit weird, which is all right. We can fix that. We're going to do that again, but we have 5,000 polygons. I'm going to go by half. If I just half it, boop, and not adapt, we're just going to get Z remesh it, and we'll probably do this a few times. It kind of helps me see it before it jumps too far down into too low of a polygroup. I can kind of see the shapes, and then once it's done, I just do it again, and if you don't have adapt on, it should pretty, you know, accurately cut it in half. And see what we have here is these little, you see these tight spots right here? These are kind of little bumps. And if you smooth these things out, I'll open it kind of big, and I just smooth, and I'm smoothing by, if I hold down F, Shift F will turn the poly groups back on and off. If I go in here and I see these little weird surfacey, whoops, didn't mean to do that. These weird surfacey kind of imperfections here. Do I have it on? Yeah, it's on mirror. So find the stuff that looks kind of weird, and you smooth it down. Help the shape, right? And then we go back to our mesh, and we're still on half. We hit Z remesher again, and you can see before we were almost at 1 million polys. We're down to basically less than a third of the original size, and it's going to look basically the same. I didn't need to have it so ridiculous, but when I'm sculpting, to get the most clay-like feel out of ZBrush, it's easier to get that feeling when the poly count, the active points, are really high. Oh, look at this, error remeshing. So something is weird here, which is okay. Sometimes if you go to legacy and then Z remesh, it'll work. It might not this time, I don't know. It could be something where if I had the adaptive on, it might work. But also just could be running out of memory because I'm running a video live stream on my computer at the same time. Because typically, there it goes. So that's the thing. If the regular Z remesher doesn't work, you can turn on the legacy one, which I'm on an older version of ZBrush, so who knows if that's even a thing on the newer versions. I'm using ZBrush 2022.07, which I think is the last version before Max and said you got to pay for it now, even though you bought it before as a perpetual license from Pixelogic, who Pixelogic was great. I miss Pixelogic. All right, so got this guy, and we're down to 144,000. We could go definitely lower. So smooth these little bumpities here. This is kind of weird. Whoops. There's like a weird little divot here. So let's do it again. Z remesher. And when you get lower and you get these clean, the cleaner the polygons, the nicer the edges are, and the easier it is to control, which is really good for hard surface models where you need like nice clean outlines, clean edges, and you want to do you know, details in the surface and stuff that are more like panel lines and stuff like that. It's much easier to do when the geometry is really good. So now we're at 70,000. So it's getting lower. Can go lower than this. My phone is blinking at me again. Protocol Cosplay. What's up, Borden? Hello. How are you doing? And again, sorry if when I go to respond, sorry if it's a delay because I don't see it for a minute. Usually I'm getting a question or something partway through. Doesn't pop up until they hear me say a thing, which is already delayed, and then I see it and then I answer, and then that's delayed. So stick with me if you know, if I'm taking too long here. But yeah, all right, 70,000. We're gonna keep going here with this lowering the geometry thing. I'm trying to make this sucker really simple. And see, you can see these little tight spots in the geometry. Those are spots where stuff is a little weird. Just trying to compensate. So the smoother you get those areas and then Z remesh, the better you are. Now that's the thing I was talking about before, where I do think sometimes it's not like the fastest way, as far as like when if I do a scan cleanup in a little bit, which I might pop over and do. You'll see how I work in really small sections instead of doing like a general smooth over the whole surface, which works and most people wouldn't notice, but I know that it shrinks the surface, it softens details that you don't want to soften. So I don't like to work that way. I'd rather do incremental steps here. You can see this goofy thing. I'd rather do incremental steps to smooth this out and everything, and then test the geometry again and keep lowering it. Because if you do one in like an adaptive and you say give 5,000 polygons, but you have some weird little part that has too much detail, it's going to try to preserve that detail, and it distributes the polygons in a really not the best way. Like you can see it's getting pretty even. We got a couple little tight spots like here, a couple guys here, but getting closer. And also again, I'm still every time I do it, I'm reducing it down more and more. And when you have a tight spot in the geometry like that, when you cut the polygons in a half or a quarter of the original amount, it gets smooths easier when you have less geometry. Basically, you're averaging the angles between the different planes, and if you have less of them, it smooths much easier and faster. It relaxes the like these little tight areas really relax better. So let's try it again. Z-remesh, and every time it gets lower, everything works faster. So if you have low geometry and good shapes, it's easier for your printer software. It's just easier all around. So I'm trying to make them better and cleaner. And I had someone commented the other day when I was doing my Tom Servo about, when you do a selection like expanding and contracting your selection, which is great if you have good geometry. But the one I was working on the other day, it was Dynamesh, so the geometry is just crazy and terrible and way too high, and doing the expand selection works strangely in those situations. So now we're getting down really low. So now we're 11 thousandths. Makes this easy to work with and fast, and we're going to do it some more. Probably do, I might even be able to go two more steps down. So you see it's really, there's not too many, one little guy right here, it's a little soft. Ready, one more time, Z-remesher, point, there we go. Look at that, super low geometry. And that's going to live underneath our weird bubble here. And this is, sometimes when you do this, even though I have the mirroring on, you can see it mirrors from left to right. When you do the Z-remesher, it won't always be true to the mirror. And so I'm going to check it here. I'm going to do a mirror and weld on the geometry. Oh my gosh, where am I at here? It's a modified topology. Here we go. Mirror and weld. Did it change anything? Nope, it's perfect. Okay, cool. Now it should, in theory, not affect the part, but sometimes it does. Natalie's making noises over here.
Sorry, I saw my
Talking to the cat while I'm on the live stream, making cooing sounds. So anyway, I'm going to push this down a little bit back underneath the texture part. Now when I did this for the Disney droids at Galaxy's Edge, I made this whole thing and this texture detail barely showed up on the print, so I added it back manually, and I don't think that I think that I might have actually textured over this section by accident. So then the ones at Galaxy's Edge might be textured the whole way around, which is not on purpose. Still did R2, then more 3PO stuff. What are the adjustments on your 3PO arms that you showed off and made them better? Oh, those adjustments are amazing. Autismus Prime. that screen name's amazing, by the way. The adjustments that I made on those 3PO arms is they're off of a scan of real protocol droid arms from the show, so they have like all this subtlety in them that I never had before, and they fit amazing. They're taller, they go up into my armpit better. So for the first time since I've been wearing the 3PO costume, I did not get pinches up under my arms. Very first time I wore them to the Hollywood Christmas parade, and so when I was walking around, anytime someone would come up to take a photo and they bump my arm when I'm in that suit, it would pinch right here. I'd end up with these crazy marks under my arms all the time. First time in, what is this, 2025, and geez, I'm like almost 14 years of wearing that suit. First time in that time that I didn't get pinches under my arms when someone bumped into me, which is amazing. And they just go on way easier than my last ones. The other ones weren't bad, but these just fit better, and I like that a lot. So here I am, just basically now I'm taking this part and dialing it back, and you can see that when it's low geometry like this, it's very easy to control the surface. It minimizes faster, whereas when it's really high, you're only affecting like a really small area. I could probably go half this. Let's do it one more time. Let's soloize this thing. And now when it's like this, I could probably do the smooth tool. Sometimes the smooth tool like bring in the edges more than I want, which even doing the Z remesher can do that a little bit. So try that again. Dynamesh. We don't want Dynamesh. We'll close that. Z remesher. And if I want this modified topology to stay open and Z remesher, you can see modified topology is still open. Like typically if I push this, the modify topology under wherever it is down here, right there. See how the menu closes? So if I'm going back and forth, I want to keep them open. If I hit Shift and tap it, then they'll stay open. But otherwise, if I hit this, then the Z remesher closes. See how it goes back and forth? But I like them both to be open because I'm going to be back and forth quite a bit. So I got that. Let's do one more Z remesher. I think 1500. Is that right? It's getting really low. 4000. Let's do one more time. Look at that. Super low geometry. And now when it's this low, you can really get into doing the Z modeler. And if you go to Z modeler tool and you want to remove a line, you know, or really simplify the geometry like this, but in a controlled way, it becomes much easier to do when you have so much less geometry. And then if you want to smooth it, you hit, let's see, D, which is like your dynamic subdivision. You just hit always yes. And so if it's here, you can see when I move it, it like pixelates a little bit. That's because it's got the lower geometry, but it's basically up-resing it kind of like on a temporary basis where I can go back and forth. So I can go down or I can go back up to this high res. You can see how it gets pixelated and smooth, which is really cool. We're going to use this in a little bit when I get into some of the other parts, and you'll kind of see where. And that's why I kept the old versions too, is because sometimes when you start to manipulate stuff this much, you will deform the surface more than you plan. Like, see how I have a little bit of a gap here? If I go here, you can see that the edge is going all the way up. Let me see something. So a thing we can do too, this is really, really great for making armor and so forth, where you can just make a plane like this, and when you go to your dynamic subdivision tool, which is right here, we'll turn that on. You can see it lights up, and now it's just hitting the letter D. We'll turn this on. You can make the smoothing even more. So if we get in close, you can see the little faceted face. But you could turn this up, and it gets tighter and tighter. It becomes higher and higher geometry, but it's temporary. So you can go back to your low-res version and manipulate this. That makes your life easier, but we don't need it this high. We'll keep it at 2. Another thing, the same with armor, which is very handy, is you can control the thickness. So you can basically pump this up. Boop. Now you got a little bit of a thickness here. Got some weird geometry going on. There might be some floaty little polygons out in La La Land. So I always put the offset all the way in, because basically that means that the outer surface is where it originally lived, and now you're just giving thickness to the inside. You could go the other way if you want. I typically just push this in, and then if you hit smooth on the edges, so these flyaways might go away. There might just be like floaty geometry here, but if I turn up the smoothness on the edge, it usually will cure anything if there's weirdness on the sides. But this may just come down to actual extra geometry here that I need to get rid of. So we're going to turn this back off, though. We don't need the thickness currently, but I wanted to show you guys that you can do that if you need to. You could even turn the smoothness down and add the thickness if you want, which can be really handy, again, for making armor and stuff. If you don't care if you're going to do cleanup, just keep it really low res, but give it a little bit of beef. That can be handy. This is actually really good for doing foam versions of stuff too. If I'm making foam patterns, I can turn the geometry up and look at it, see what it looks like with the thickness, and adjust it. And then when I go to export, I just turn this off, and I get this really low res version that the patterning software likes a lot. Likes more when it's really simplified. But anyway, so I'm getting distracted now. Let's see. I'm going to turn this back down. Turn this back up. This will be a good start. There we go. I got to do some fixes to these gaps here, and basically I can do this with the brush tool. I'm going to go to B, M, E, which is move elastic, and you can take this and just kind of massage it around if you need to. Now, in the end, I may end up attaching this and this piece, I think, are pretty uniform. They really need to go back together, so I'll make those adjustments as I get there, but it'll be good. Anyway, you think you could put padding in the armpit area. My biceps hit the shoulder ring and it gets divots. Put padding like for your arm to keep pinching, or put padding to prevent the arm from getting damaged, like the costume arm. Is that what you mean? Anywhere you think you could put padding in the armpit area. Not necessarily to help my arm. Usually what happens there too is it's like just the edge of the arm here and the edge of the inside of the costume just pinching away that I don't think I can do much about. One thing that's helpful as far as like keeping prevent divots, like in the costume, I never got divots before, so it's not a thing I've had to deal with. I do have the arms just get all beat the crap up at the top. They just get beat up. Even on like all the screen use costumes have like gold foil tape up there and just like repaints and stuff because they just get destroyed. On one set of my arms a while ago, I had put a little felt glued onto the inside of the shoulder bells, and that actually helped them from making a lot of noise. It cut down the wear and tear a lot, but definitely not enough to keep pinches. But I don't quite know what you mean by divots. Is that like just wear and tear on the costume, or is that like actual dents in the arm? I never had any kind of dents like that on my arm, so I'm not sure if I'm understanding correctly. I have had like I said, wear and tear, scratches and so forth. So this is the thing too. See, when I smooth this out, you can see that it affects the back here just a little bit. I need to lift it back up just a tad to get it closer to where it was originally. Then we have this weird hole down the bottom. Yeah, wear and tear on the costume. I mean, you might be able to put a little, like I said, I did a little felt, and at one time I had felt on the inside of the legs to keep the shorts from getting all torn up, and it kind of helped, but not as much as I'd wanted. And then at one time, what happened? Something happened with that for some reason. Oh, the felt had it glued into the inside of the legs, and during an event, the edge of the felt kind of tore and it lifted up like this, and then my shorts caught in it and made the shorts do some really weird stuff for that for like 2 hours. I had to deal with that. It was not fun, and ever since then I've never put the stuff back in. However, it does help keep the shorts from wearing, and I'm sure like you could do, there's probably a way to do something with the arms, but really I'm sure it's going to come down to your personal fit and how your costume is more than I could really just tell you like one way's good and one way's not or something. This thing, God, my phone is going bananas here. Modified topology, I'm going to mirror and weld this because I think this one, there we go. Now that's equal. I'm trying to think if I've ever done it. The most, like I said, that when I put that padding on the inside of the arm up here, it helped a lot with the visible wear and tear. That little bit that you'll get under here, you could probably do something there. It might help for a little while, but I think it's one of those like maintenance things. I don't know how it is for you, but for my costume, I always have to before I do any event, I really have to go do a major once over. Just usually it's fine, but I just check everything. Especially my shoes. I've been wearing these old like fabricated shoes that I made ages ago, and I've got nicer shoes that look better, but the other ones I have are just so much more comfortable to walk around in, and it's just so much easier, and I just always wear them, and they're terrible, and I just fix them like every event. I'm out there doing some goofy repair on these awful shoes, and the thing is, I'm probably going to fabricate another pair. When I did Skeleton Crew, the ones that I wore with that RA7, I made another set just like the ones that I wear with my 3PO suit, but they're brand new. They're like, it's a better fit shoe, all brand new fabrication. I was really careful with the piping detail to make it like consistent and everything, but they're just a fabricated shoe. And it worked great. XSI Maya 20 years ago for same shape. We create a cube, cut in half, mirror, subdivide, pull points. Is that style out of fashion these days? Tried ZBrush 1 or 2 way back. Fun stuff. No, that stuff is fine. That poly modeling, actually, like in ZBrush, you can do that same thing with. Basically, that's kind of what I'm essentially redoing here. Is I'm simplifying this thing that I sculpted into more of a poly model. Now, I used to work in 3D Studio Max and Maya, back 2000, like almost 20 years ago, and I would do everything like that. All my stuff would be poly modeled. I got a big portfolio to make cars and helicopters and any piece of furniture you could imagine for like architectural scenes, all kinds of crazy stuff, and it'd all be poly modeled. Like you said, take a cube, subdivide it, move points around, like tons of stuff. I think on my YouTube, like 8 years ago, I don't even know how long time ago, one of my early videos is like making a helicopter in 3D Studio Max, and it's done just like that, full on regular poly modeling. Now, what I think is handy is in ZBrush, because I'm more like, for me, it's like doing this sculpture-y bit, sculpting, I really, really enjoy. And being able to block in the thing in a sculptural form and then simplify it back down into a poly model. This is literally exactly what I'm doing tonight. Like this thing here, so you can see it's pretty low res. But this, like right now, I don't know if you're on here earlier, but this is currently, let me turn the thing off. It's 3,000 polygons for this, which could still be lowered even more. But this piece, when I started this earlier, was like almost 1 million polys, and I've just lowered the resolution a bunch because it gets easier to work with. Like this thing too, you can see this shape. It's kind of like, a little eggy here. But to simplify this, if I turn down the resolution, I can like control the shape a lot better, get cleaner lines and so forth. Same with this piece here. There's another one where I really need to probably make the little eye holes cylinders, and then remodel this really clean, and then repunch the eye holes when I'm done. I suppose poly count doesn't matter as much these days for modern GPUs. Yeah, it doesn't matter as much. I still prefer, especially on like something where it's going to be like a cleaner shape, if I lower the poly count, it makes it easier to control the smoothness of the thing. Like this piece here, I'm about to completely redo, and I'm essentially going to cut away the interior geometry and then remodel, add everything back, and simplify this a bunch, because there's little, like if I get this in the light, you can see there's little surface kind of warbles and stuff that don't really need to be there. This shape is a very clean shape, and it should be cleaner. But when I did this, again, I was like kind of working really fast. See this one, there's like this weird dent here and some weirdness in this. But because it's a consistent thickness all the way around, I can basically delete the interior. Again, I'll go back and use my reference here. I can delete all the interior faces and simplify this outer one, add the thickness like I was showing earlier, and it'll be much cleaner. Let me turn on lasso. BSL, which makes the lasso, or should, but I just messed it up. B, S, and L. There we go. You say skip until next time. And now I've got a lasso tool. And it didn't work for some reason. What did I do here? Oh yeah, I see. There we go. So if you use a lasso, now I can remove these guys. And if I break up this interior face, I can, is it mirrored? Yeah. If I break up this interior face, then I have a lot more control, and that is nice. But still, yeah, poly count really matters too, even more when it's, if you're doing game stuff and you got to run 1 billion things, they're kind of actually, if you've seen some of the stuff that Unreal Engine can do with many millions of polygons. It's really impressive. Let's see. All right, so if I separate the top and the bottom, and then I do auto groups, if I separate it properly, I should get a different group for the inside and the outside of this thing that are different colors. I'm gonna put this as a white so we can see a little better. So any pieces that are separated, if I go down to poly groups, auto groups, see how it gives me all these different colors, and I really just want the pink. So if I shut everything else off and I grab the pink part, I can go to back up to geometry, delete hidden, and now all that stuff is gone. So now I've got this really simplified shape. I'll turn on the poly groups, and you can see that there's a lot of unnecessary kind of geometry here that I don't need. Is this going to be printable? Yes, this will be printable. It technically was printable already. This is the exact file I worked with. It's had a couple changes in the last couple weeks, but this is the files that I made. The ones, if you've been to Galaxy's Edge and you've been to the Droid Depot, the EV99s that are there are from these files. Those are this is the file that made those droids that are at Galaxy's Edge. They reached out and said, "Can you make these?" And I said yes, and I just whipped them up. And so now I'm going to make them, I'm improving them, I'm adjusting the scale just a little tiny bit because I had access to some real droid parts that are also on this droid from a different droid. And I measured them, and I realized I had to make some subtle changes, which rescales the whole thing. So I'm rescaling it, I'm making the arms, the whole nine, just everything's getting a tweak, and then it'll be printable. And I'm going to try to make sure that when it prints in a way that's easy to print and assemble with as little support material as needed. I'm trying to make it like printer friendly, so it's not like one of those nightmare things. You got to figure out some weird way to set it up to print it. I just want to like avoid all that. I hate support material. Unreal Engine seems good program to learn. I pursued Houdini a while, but fell off years ago. Thanks, dude. Houdini is super cool. I got some friends that work in that a lot, that do like a lot of VFX work, and they do explosions and particle simulations and like crashing cars and things like that. It's very, very impressive. I downloaded a long time ago, but I didn't use it enough to learn. I really was like, didn't know what the heck I was doing in there, so it was terrible. All right, so now got this piece here. And what I want to do is I want to go to Z remesher like I did before. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put on half, and we're at 18,000 polys, 18,800, almost 19,000. And we're going to turn off adapt, because adapt is going to try to like fix a little small stuff, and I'm going to avoid that. So do this. Oh, we got an error. See, an error encountered. Sometimes if there's like a floating geometry or something weird on the edge. So we turn on 2018 and see if that works. It might not. Sometimes it doesn't. There it goes. See, sometimes the 2018 option works nicely. And now that we've done this, I'm going to have to go back in and like sharpen up some edges and stuff, but that's fine. I've got my old one. So this geometry up here is very weird. I'm going to see if I can soften this a tad. Oops, yeah, there's something kind of right here that's pulling. Let's try it again. Z remesher. All right, sometimes that'll fix it. We got a little bit of weirdness back here. Soften this just a little. Oh, see that little foldy bit? All right, Z remesher. Boom. Now we're in pretty simple mode. I hate support material too. I will go incredible lengths to remodel things to not have to use them. I am the same. I'm like, I will make stuff. I'm working on an RX droid, like RX-24. The little the droid from Star Tours. We built the ones for Book of Boba Fett that were just used again in Skeleton Crew. And I never made one for myself, so I was like, I'm going to make one of these. And all of the parts I made don't require any support material. And I'd modeled the whole thing minus the upper arm and the interior mechanics. Interior mechanics for the head to make the visor and the pan and tilt for the head and the upper arm were done by David Ferreira. But David Ferreira used all the files I made, and he added his servo mounts and his stuff in that one arm. And when he did, he changed everything and made it goddamn impossible to print without like tons of support material. So like the head is just, I've been cleaning it. I was like, man, I had this thing all set up. But he combined stuff so that it could take these parts, but it was just nightmarish. And I am going to redo that whole thing. I'm going to make more like a display version. It won't have all the mechanics on the inside like the screen used ones did, and it's going to assemble differently, but it'll look just the same. And I'm probably going to build those. I don't know if I can put the files up, but I might be able to like just make them and, you know, sell them if people want them, but I'm going to have to build them. I don't think I can put the files online. But they're going to be totally redone. So let me grab a piece here really quick. So it's like here's one of the, this is the third arm down body panel, and this whole thing with all its, let's just switch over here so I can see what's going on. I'll go to this screen, the me screen, pop into it. So like this whole thing, this is a quick print. I make these things incredibly thin so that basically like the sidewalls and everything are solid. I don't want any infill or anything. There's no infill, and there's crazy tapers on the inside, so anything where there's an overhang, I just tapered it so you can just print the whole dang thing without like any supports at all. And it's like the whole thing is like this, except right now the head and some parts for the upper ring that David added servo mounts to, and now you got to print it, and he made them way too thick. So anyway, David Ferreira, if you're watching this, it's a big pain. This was, again, 4 years ago, so he's probably gotten better at that kind of thing. But when I did, I was like, oh, my God, what's happening here? All right, let's go back to the scene. Let's go back to ZBrush. Sorry. Get myself distracted. I hate support. So anyway, avoiding support materials is like my hobby. All right, let's see this thing here. We've got this guy. Now, because these lines here are essentially like continuous, whoops, I just moved it. There's like very subtle curve here. I can simplify this down quite a bit. Like I could come in here and go BZM for Z modeler, and I could probably remove like every other one of these things, and it helps to average out the geometry across the curve. So your curve is nice, but all like the little weird warbles and imperfections get softened up a lot. So what I'll do sometimes, I'll do this, go through like OCD to remove a whole bunch of these. As long as I'm not affecting the curvature, I'm sort of averaging out like the imperfections, which is kind of nice. You can find spots like down here, like this little warble here. It helps straighten these things out. Really knocking this back. And the thing is, once I do this, it doesn't mean that I can't go back and fix things or add geometry back in. But sometimes simplifying it down and then re-adding the geometry, you end up with a much cleaner final result. So I'm gonna go boom. Now let's look. Now I probably overdid it just a little bit on this curve. Probably, maybe not. So when you hit the smooth, it starts to help a lot. And I'm gonna go back to the, where are we at? We don't want to see polygroups. I'm gonna go back. Oh yeah, geometry. Sorry, I had a brain fart there for a second. Z remesher. Geometry, we're in it. Okay, so dynamic subdivision, which is on. I'm going to add the thickness back in. We're going to go to negative offset here and a little bit of smoothness on that. Basically thicken it up. If I unhide stuff, I could probably see the old version and see how thick it actually was and kind of get this close. Now, the other thing with painting with ZBrush is like These are units. They're not, it's not like a real measurement. It's like, it's based on units. So if your units are millimeters or inches or whatever, it kind of is basing it on that. But so that piece is now much cleaner, and you can see I've made it a little short. You can go to, I'm going to make sure this perspective is turned off here. And basically this is essentially vertical. So I can grab these pieces. I'm going to soloize this. B, M, and I think is infinity. Oh no, kidding. Some of these I got B, move, infinite, in, right? In. Is that right? Yeah, infinite. All right. Now this is good. What this will do is it'll pick across the different layers here. Let me turn off this guy. And like, technically speaking, I could just grab this and mask it. I'm going to do that. It's going to be a little bit better. Step it. All right, I'm going to mask it like that, and I'm going to, where's my gizmo? There it is. So we center the gizmo. I'm going to turn the, see how it centers it to the mask area, but because I have symmetry turned on, it wants to go to one side. So if I turn symmetry off, you can see the little red dot going to both sides. If I turn symmetry off, now it's on one side, but if I center it, it'll go right to the center. And then I can turn symmetry back on, and we'll be good. But I'm going to just raise this up a tiny bit. It's okay if some of these things are like down here, it's losing a little, it's okay. I can go BML. I'm going to turn the lasso for the mask on. Oops. And I'm going to just grab some of these guys here. And why is it fighting me? There we go. All right, so just pull that up a tiny bit. Doesn't matter if it's perfect because we're just going to remesh it again anyway. Let's look. Now that kind of goes up where it's supposed to. Turn off the mask. And now, minus this little weird thing here, this part is getting much cleaner. Much cleaner. It's not perfect, but it's a lot cleaner. And then because this goes up inside and it coincides with this face, when I do the same thing to this one and clean this one up, then I can merge all these pieces together in a way that'll be friendly. And again, this piece here, this is one of those things where we're talking about printing without supports. I would probably print like the face in a bunch of different pieces and assemble it, which kind of looks more like the screen use one looks like. You can see all the individual parts. So if I can not have to sand up in a bunch of corners, I'll be a lot happier. I remodeled an entire R2 dome just because I wanted it to look better. I found it funny to tell someone that I'm a C3PO builder, a perfectionist, trying to build an R2 imperfections. Yeah, no, it's so crazy. It's like, I just don't understand. Like some stuff, if you were printing it in like SLS nylon, like a powder-based, centered laser kind of print, you could make all those weird shapes and be fine. But man, if I have like a tube and then another tube and they go together, instead of just printing one and having to either support the whole inside or the whole, I'll just make two pieces and they key together, and I can print one and print another one, and they'll both be done together before I would have printed the two pieces as one thing. It's just crazy. And I just want to be done with the damn thing. And I get paranoid. The longer a thing is on the printer, the more I worry that something's gonna go wrong. Freaks me out. So when people model stuff like that, I'm just like, oh, please. Or if it's like a thing where it really, there's no way to avoid having it, I will cut it and then I'll add some keys on the inside, and I would rather print the whole thing in like a quarter of the time and then fix a seam line and have it done. Off the printer, done. I'm also big on, if I can avoid infill, I like to do that. And if I'm making costume parts, I always print like thin, like usually 2 millimeters at the thickest, usually 1.6. I'll make it really thin, and then I can fiberglass the inside if I need to. Usually doesn't even need that, but it's an option, and it prints so fast, and it uses barely any material, and I like that. Did I even go back to my screen? I did. Okay, sorry, I didn't know if I switched back so you guys could see ZBrush or not. All right, let's figure out what the heck is wrong here. I have a little, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this piece, and I'm going to go to ZRemesher, and I'm going to put this on same, so we keep the same geometry, but it should, in theory, distribute a little evenly. I kind of got a little corner there, it got a little weird. But that's okay, so we can take this one corner and just tweak it as we need to. We'll go back in. I'm going to basically adjust all these parts to match my original sculpt, because I'm pretty happy with the original overall sculpture. I just want the geometry to be better. So now we're on to this piece. Grab it. This one, you can see, same deal, way too much geometry. This, I think this is the piece. There is actually a thing that after I made this whole thing, I noticed something that all of the reference photos that I had of this droid, so many. I had like every freaking picture I could find online. I had tons of pictures from the archives that were sent to me so that I could work on this. Couldn't see this except in one photo. And once I saw it, I won't get into it yet because I want mine to be special. Like, I have a couple other people have done this droid, and I have problems with every one of their sculpts. They're okay, but this is one of those things that when I saw it, I was like, oh, now I gotta fix this. And the thing is, the ones at Disney Park don't have this little tweak that I gotta do. So still, they look really good, but they're just a little, could be better. All right, so now I'm in the same boat here where this crap, I gotta do all of this. And but yeah, I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to work on stuff every day for my Patreon page. I set this stupid thing up a while ago. It's not set up for subscribers yet or anything like that. I have to get on that, but I want to have something on there, at least a thing, before I get too far along. I am notorious for starting projects and then getting too busy to finish them, and I want to make sure I got something on there so people aren't paying for a subscription and then like, what the hell, Gordon? So at least if I get a thing or multiple things going, it'll be good. Let's see. Just got my CNC with the 4th axis machine, steep learning curve, but I'm going to make 3 people metal gravely soon. Oh my god, that's amazing. Yeah, keep me posted on that, because there's some parts that I would love to have in metal. I would love to have the neck ring done in metal, and proper metal shoulders. There's a guy on the page that did some pretty nice ones, but they just weren't scaled right, and he told me the dimensions, they were like a little off from what they wouldn't fit my costume, and I was like, probably end up redoing them. There was like some little subtle things too where I was like, that could be better, that could be different. And my thing I'm going to do is make my metal shoulder rings the way that I did my detachable ones, where they can spin and turn, but they are removable. I love being able to flip it over and just take the shoulder off of the costume when I put it away. And if I made them in metal, I could still have that functionality, and it would just be way sturdier. The thing is, like, it works pretty well on my 3D printed ones. They work pretty well. I've used them for years like that. But what happens is there's a little bit of flex, and if there's like just a slight imperfection in my suit, it flexes just a little bit, and they get stiff in areas. And if I had metal, like a metal, even a metal half, if I had the interior surface metal like that was up against the suit, like that's the permanent part, and I made that piece out of metal, the outer piece could be 3D printed and it would be fine. But that inner piece, if it gets just a little bow in it for whatever reason, it wants to fight with the external. However, if I did the internal and external both metal, then I could properly mount the shoulders. They're like reasonably mounted now, but they're not quite perfect, and it's just one of those things. I don't trust the 3D printed, little tiny thin piece of 3D printed material to do its job to really hold that piece on there the way that I would like it to. All right, so all right, we're going back to here. Oh no, we're gonna go down to polygroups, auto groups. There we go. Now we got our pieces. All right, I'm gonna delete the interior portions here, which is at up here. Modify topology. Delete hidden. Cool. Now we're going to go to modify topology, Z remesher, and we're just going to go to half. Turn off adapt and hit in. There we go. Already way better. Let me do it one more time. Z remesher. Burp. All right, and we're getting closer. You see this little like wavy stuff that's going on here. This little crap. That is something I'm going to fix. Now on the ones I did for Disney, I just sanded that stuff perfect because I was just like, it's a little thing. Got to print this. I'll just sand it out. So got the. Let's look here. You can see when I turn on the dynamic subdivision here. See how it shrinks it just a little bit? I can't remember if I can crease the edge or not. I gotta look. Let's see. I know you can crease the edges when you have thickness already. If you have 2 polygroups, you can hit crease edges, and then it won't shrink like that on the sides. You go to crease polygroups. Let me see if that does anything. Ready? Oh, it worked. Okay, so I gotta remember to turn that on. So if you crease your polygroups, then you do not lose your edges. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so we're gonna do that on this one too. I'm gonna go here, turn off the subdivision, and this one. Turn off the subdivisions. Right? We're gonna crease polygroups. Oop. The heck did I do? Did I lose something? I feel like I lost something. What is happening here? Oh, this piece. I'm like, why does this look different? Crease polygroups and turn it back on. Oh my god. Okay, that's cool. I still got to figure out what this booger is over here. And what I might do is, because this technically just runs behind here, I could just connect these pieces here. Turn off this stuff. I'm going to bridge this across. My machine isn't probably big enough to do those parts, but pistons, antennas, hand pistons, leg pistons. Hand pistons would be awesome, just because they always break if you have 3D printed ones. I don't know if you ever saw how I did my hand pistons. Years ago, I made a little gang mold. I could do like 3 at a time. I might be able to do 6 at a time. I can't remember. It's got a little mold, and I make these metal pins, and then they've got a staple, literally like a 1/2 inch wide, like a big, like gnarly staple. And I take the staple, I have a little jig that's set up, and I glue the staple to the pin, and then I wrap it with thread, and I glue the thread with super glue, so it's just like very strong. And then I drop all those in the mold, and I pour the urethane resin in there, and now when I pop them out, it looks like the piston. They're real sturdy. The ones that have been on my suit have been on there for years. None of them are broken. And now the pin fits perfectly into the holes on the tops of the 3PO hands. They fit this like the screen used hands that will fit these pieces. The little pieces go down, and then I can bend the pin over underneath, and I just put some hot glue just to keep it so that it doesn't scratch me or anything. And a little piece of tape on the inside. But they work great, and they're easy to make. But I had to make a mold, had to do all this cleanup. But having those made out of metal would be fantastic. And somewhere I got pictures of some of the screen. I had access to some screen used hands, and on the inside I got pictures of the inside, the way they fasten the little greeblies on there. And I'm trying to remember where those photos are. Maybe I could share like a close-up or something. I can't show the outside of the hand because it'll show which hand it was, and I don't know if I'm supposed to take pictures of them or not. But interesting. I too want to mount my shoulders better. That piece I probably could create with your input. I can help you do that. I'll give you also the files that I have for my the version I have where they like attach, I'll just give you those files. You can have it. They're not like a secret. I think they might actually be on Thingiverse. I can't remember. But the ones that fit my suit don't fit like I don't know if they'll fit the Jesse M files. I have to check. They definitely don't fit the TK409 suits. Those are like an atrocity. They're hideous. Shoulders on those dumb things. But yeah, I don't know if it would work. But you can have those files. And I thought about taking those files and then taking the same design. And you know how on the 3PO shoulders it's like, the little lines all the way around. I was like, I could just print these in plates, like 3 plates where it's like the outer, an inner or 2 inners, whatever, with the space, and then another ring, and then just have send them to Sin and just do them out of sheet metal and have them stack them and then peg them together with some rivets. They'll probably be pretty indestructible, put 6 or 8 rivets all the way around that are just in there and grind them flush, and then it'd be there. It'd be freaking forever. But then it could have the same shapes because you have your inner ring that you see, and then inside you have the little flange, and then a little flange with cutouts that accepts your other piece. I considered doing them like that for a while. I have to go check I want to mount my shoulders better. Yeah, the rotating shoulders is like a huge thing for me. That was one of the things that used to irk me about my original torso, which was one of the TK409 suits. And I hate the floppy shoulders. I hate when they're on that stupid, like a piece of fabric. And my current shoulders kind of have a fabric backup in them, but they rotate. So if I move, they rotate. But if I really tweak them far, it'll pop loose, and they're on magnets. So it'll swing free if it needs to, but it usually just lifts up and clicks back down, but the whole shoulder ring rotates properly. But it kind of has a piece of fabric for an emergency backup, which I would like to make proper, like the movie ones with a hinge. And you know how the movie ones have that weird, it's not quite an accordion, but it's got those little discs inside. I got a really good picture of how those go together, because you don't see them very often in the film, but they're real thin. And there's 8 of them maybe. They're real thin, and they sit together, and they're tack welded like every other one opposes each other, so that it's like when they open there'll be 2 that are tacked on the sides here, and then the next ones are tacked at the top and bottom, and then vice versa all the way through. So when you lift them, they kind of pull each other. And I have a feeling, I could be wrong, but there's some shots in Empire Strikes Back when 3PO lifts his arms, and you can see these little bands all the way around, in between, you see the little discs open up, but then there's these little elastic things in there. I think that they did that so that when it would rotate, it would take some of that tension off that little hinge at the top and help the thing twist. I don't know this for sure, but just looking design wise, it just seems like they would have problems, because as I've been designing these, I could see where stuff has weak points. Even if it was metal and hinges were metal, it could bend there really easy if it didn't have something to distribute that torque. So let's see. I want to mount my 2. I want rotating shoulders. He still uses Velcro and advises me to use Velcro strap to hold the shoulder on the shoulder ring. Oh God, yeah, don't do that. I mean, it looks bad. Like you said, that whole floppy, when you reach forward and the shoulder swings. Not necessarily you, but just in general. My suit did that all the time. When I see a photo where it's like that, oh God, it makes me feel sick. I hate it. You'll notice my RA7 droid, skeleton crew, the shoulders rotate. When I would start walking, I'm real proud of that, because nobody did that yet. I like it. But yeah, it just looks bad, especially when in the films they established there's a precedent set that this is what they're supposed to look like. And so to make it not that just seems not cool. Anyway, let's get back to work here. Z-Modeler. All right, so I am going to bridge these 2 pieces, because these things don't need to be a gap here. I can make this one circle. Yeah, you get me started on the shoulder thing. I start tweaking out. Okay, so I'm going to turn off. See, I got the mirroring on. I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to go to this edge. Oops, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hit spacebar. I'm going to turn on bridge. And I'm going to go to the here and hit spacebar and say do nothing. So now if I go here and then click this, it should bridge the gap. Boop, 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 boop. And let's do this one too. Hell, I'll go all the way up here. I don't care. Let's do that. Should I do that one? Nah, it's getting ridiculous. Even that last one is probably overkill. Let's do this. I'm going to hit move. I'm just going to slide this upward like this. And this guy, I'm going to go to move. And I'm going to mirror this. Move, move. Because this is going to be hidden up inside. So now I have a whole loop. So I'm going to do a mirror and weld, which will give me a center line here and then make sure that everything's symmetrical. And I'm going to add insert. We're going to just add a couple more just to like soften this up because I'm going to remesh it. I don't want it to go too crazy. I'm going to go back to Z remesher. I'm going to hit same Z remesh. Now we got this little thing which is a little weird, but it's okay because it's going to be hidden under there. So this little mustache. And I'm going to go back to crease and uncrease all, crease polygroup, and there we go. So see this one. And dynamic subdivision. Let's make a metal rotating shoulder. I am totally down. And the thing is, the hybrid one, I wanted mine to be all metal eventually. That was always my plan. Hiring a machine shop to make them was ridiculously expensive. I would rather put that money into buying some equipment and then making them myself. Like I've been like this close to buying a metal lathe like multiple times so that I specifically so that I can make these stupid things like the neck and the shoulders and some of the other pieces where I'm like, man, this would be awesome if I could just make it myself. I mean, the whole thing is like doing the chrome. It's the same thing where I just go places and it's so expensive. Like, man, for that much money, I could pretty much buy all the equipment and do my own. And I might suck at it at first, but I'll learn it and then I'll know how to do it. And I like that part. Where did I go? Z remesher, dynamic subdivision. Okay, turn that on. Go to thickness. Turn this up. Offset. Turn it back. And now we've got some pieces here. Look at that. Look at that. See this little warble? I gotta get rid of that. How is that part shaped? A little bit weird. I mean, overall, considering I sculpted all this stuff without using like the geometry sheets, I feel like it came out pretty good. But now that I can do this, it's gonna be way better. Yeah, I feel like the metal shoulder rings, like that idea I was talking about with doing sin and having them cut sheet metal, I could make it look damn near identical to a screen used version without having to go through like the machining, the undercuts and stuff, and it would still assemble just like my removable versions I have. And the thing is, those rotating ones, like a lot of the real ones, you know, I think the very first movie might have used these what the heck's the name of them? The bearings that they use are very, very expensive. And I think after the first film, when they recreated them, they just machined out an outer and an inner. And the inner is like has, you know, the main ring that you see externally, and the internal kind of like part that protrudes just has a groove in it. And when you put them together, there's little worm screws that go in and just keep it from falling off. So there's not actual bearings in there, just like little screws that kind of keep the thing together. And I was going through some photos, and on one of the older ones, it has those same kind of screws coming up from the inside. which is weird. I've only seen them on one of the suits, so I don't know if it's like an older one. It's just designed differently. I don't know what the deal was with that. But the little tiny guys, and if you look at the shoulders, you can see that like there's like I think 3 of them that go boop boop boop. They're like these. There's one here, and then they're little tiny screws, and that's what's just keeping the whole thing together. There's no bearing actually in there. It's just a groove and these little screws that stick down in the groove and just keep it from falling apart. But again, they made different stuff for the different films, and in the first film, I have a feeling that they used some kind of found part because they use them all over the place in that movie. That bearing is used on multiple droids, and they're slightly different but the same part. It looks like this like different versions of the same thing. So I'm like, man, it must be like they had a box of these. I'm like, let's use these things for this part, just because with the kind of budget that they were on at the time, it doesn't seem like a thing that they would, invest too much money into like custom making every little piece, especially, you see those Mitchell, Mitchell record player parts. They're all over Star Wars. Like they just got boxes of like machine metal pieces that they just had around. You see them everywhere. And I like that. Let's see, where are we at here? All right, we got this part. Let's look at this guy. So, because we got our eyes, now the thing is, what do I have here? Do I have the eye pieces on this? This one is kind of weird because it really does like have like a ridge that sort of like softens as it gets toward the back. I remember sculpting this and like trying to determine where the ridge diminished, but there's kind of like a weird bump. See how like it's a little funky shape right here? So I'm going to take care of that. This is just pretty much one piece, right? So now the thing is, do I patch up the eyes and I think I'm going to patch the eyes and then recreate them. Because I think the ones I have are placed really well. As long as I keep all my placements good, I should be able to re-punch the existing eyes. Let me see something here. So these guys, these are not on the same. Let me see. This one. Oh, this is part of this guy. Okay, let's see. Solo, we don't want to lose our eyes here. So I'm going to separate those out. And we will go to, why am I blanking? Split hidden. Split hidden. Cool. Solo. Now, we're going to combine these pieces. I'm going to put these to the top, which if you hit shift and up, it'll send it all the way to the top of the stack, which makes it a little easier to deal with. And we're going to just go to merge down. Merge down. Okay. And I'm going to look at this, and I think they're all facing dead forward. Yeah, okay. So, what that means is that I can basically take these guys. I'm going to do BMR. Whoops, that was weird. BMR. I don't know why I'm on the transpose tool. If I do this, BMM. Oh my god, why am I messing up? BM. R makes a circle now? Oh, BMB. I knew it was like something. Okay. Cool. Alright, so we're going to grab these. And same thing. I'm going to center this. Oop. Turn off this. Center. Okay. And now we can pull these out like this. And these will re-punch our eyeballs when we need them to. So this is going to be our boolean tool. And they are flipped inside out, which we do not want. So we're going to flip them over, which is down here. You need to go to display properties. There we go. We're going to flip. Now they're the correct side out. And I want to seal them up. They don't need to be all funky on the end. So I'm going to zoink. I have the mirror on. BSR. That should give me a rectangle. There we go. We go in here and delete that so they're the same length. Back up to geometry. See, modify topology, delete hidden, cap holes, close holes. Now our holes are closed. And now I can repunch those eyes, and the scale should be correct. It took me forever to get this all figured out and nice. 10:39. So I've been on here for like an hour and something. I'll probably get off here soon. I'm going to get off in a little bit. Get back to work in my room. I've been making this big kind of like set piece backdrop behind my droids up in my studio, and I was hoping it'd be done like 2 days ago, but then I was like, oh, I got all these more ideas as I was working on it, and it was just going to be a wall. I was kind of going to do it like it was like Galaxy's Edge, like sort of Star Wars-y looking wall stuff with like weathering and whatever. But as I built it, I was like, this would be way cooler if it was like a big blast door. So now I'm building out the edges so that it looks recessed a little bit, and it's going to look like the door can slide open and close. It's going to have like a cool seam line on it where the pieces meet up. So it went from like almost done to now it's like a whole nother round of features. It's pretty easy to do. I'm making it out of styrofoam, like packing styrofoam, tons of it. So you know what I'm going to do really quick before I forget? I'm going to save as EV99. This is version 3. I'm putting this folder. I don't know why it's like this. 2025. Delete that. I don't know what I did. The other day I worked on this a little bit and I saved it and I don't know where I put it. So the backup version was still in ZBrush, named properly, but I don't know where I put the other one. It went into the wrong folder. And 25. All right, save it. Good. All right, cool. Okay, so these are our eye puncher Boolean tools. Let's name this stuff. Rename. Eye puncher Boolean tools. Cool. Got that. Now, I don't know if you noticed, if I never save my full, I never hit save like up here, wherever the documents, I never save the document. I just hit save as here and save my tool. I very rarely save the entire ZBrush scene, almost ever. Okay, let's grab this guy, solo this. Now, how am I going to do this? I'm going to cap the holes. Okay, close holes like this. Back down to geometry. Turn this off. Modify topology. We are going to close holes. It's going to make a big cap across the top and the bottom, but it should close the eyes if I do it right. It's really thinking right now. I might have pushed it over the edge. I feel like even the little greeblies will take a while to machine, but I do want to be a supplier, even if it takes a while to make. And that's the thing is, it's awesome to be able to do that. Also, make sure you charge what they're worth, because don't undervalue what you're doing, because it's a big pain in the butt. I think when I started making greeblies, I made resin cast ones. When I started doing 3D print ones, a lot of the 3D print ones that were out, like before people had their own 3D printers, I had a ton of stuff on Shapeways. And I put like almost, I think ZBrush is like frozen. I think I broke it. Yeah, it's freaking out. I'm gonna wait here. We're gonna wait. Sometimes it'll punch through. I didn't hardly put any markup on there because I didn't want it to be expensive, because it was kind of expensive to print the things, and I didn't want it to be so much for the other builders. So I'd put like $1, make these really like, I hardly made anything off of those. And it was fine. Like, it was fine. But in retrospect, I should have put more for my time. And then when I started making the resin ones, some of them were just a big pain. It was like hard to get them to come out perfect every time. And I think now I would do them differently. This was like 10 or 11 years ago. And it was just such a pain to make some of them. And I didn't feel comfortable making them as expensive as I needed to. Like the amount that they should cost based on my time and the materials and everything, just didn't feel, it felt like I was making them too expensive, but I wasn't. It's just like what I need to do. And I just hated that feeling of like, I can't sell them for cheap or I don't make any money. I'm like wasting my time. But if I sell them too cheap, if I make them too expensive, then I feel like I'm ripping people off. I'm bad at that kind of thing. But what I started doing, I actually have a box of them upstairs, is like for like all the small greeblies, like the arm greeblies and the small stuff that's sort of easy. I would just keep the molds around, and when I would cast other things, I would just cast whatever extra resin I had. I would just throw in those molds, and I made tons of those little parts. And I just found a huge box of like arm greeblies, just like little crappy ones. And I think when I go to Celebration in Japan, I'm going to take a whole bunch of them and print like little business card kind of size things. Just whatever. I found Gordon Tarpley at our Celebration. I'm going to glue a greebly to a business card and just have a bag of them. So if anybody ever comes up to talk to me, I can give them one of these cards. I don't know what ZBrush is doing. It's freaking out here. I'm still online. Let's see. Everything else is working. Sometimes it'll kick out of this. I might just call the stream for now and then give my computer a chance to figure this out. Sometimes it freaks out. There'll be multiple holes and it kind of doesn't know where to connect to things, and it goes through a long way before it, sorts itself. I could just close the program. I did save a minute ago, so I'm not going to lose very much. But yeah, super fun. Man, this reminds me of SolidWorks. So hard to know when to bail on software that looks locked up. Man, I know. What's crazy is I've been working on this all night, and it's been reasonably smooth. And I don't know what it is. Dude, SolidWorks in particular. I had SolidWorks on actually the computer, my next computer here, which is not powerful enough for SolidWorks. And just opening SolidWorks on that computer, it would hang sometimes. And I was like, do I ditch it? And the thing is, with this, I just saved, so if I closed it, no big deal. But there's been times when I work. I don't know what it is. Sometimes I swear you can sense, I don't know what it is. The computer does some little subtle thing that your brain picks up on, and it's like, I feel like it's going to crash when I do this next task, and then I don't save, and I hit the thing, and I'm like, oh, that's it. You're waiting for 20 minutes. Please don't crash. I just did all this work. I typically save pretty often. I haven't done it as much tonight, but I usually am like a paranoid saver. So I always dip into Task Manager to see if it's. Oh yeah, it's the same kind of thing. It's like I check the Task Manager. ZBrush is one of those ones where it'll be spiked every time. I've never had it where it's crashed and it's not doing something. It's usually gearing away. And there's times when I'll do this and I'll just go walk away. There was one time I left for 40 minutes. I went out and did something, and I came back and I walked with my computer and it was still frozen up like this. And I sat down. I was just about to close it, and right as I sat down, it kicked out. And I was like, oh, and everything was good. And yeah, this is a bummer. Yeah, I'm gonna wait. I'll wait for it. But on that note, I think I'm gonna end this stream here, and I'm gonna end the stream, and then I'm gonna go back up to making all my stuff upstairs. And these guys, he's further back than he looks. He's just hanging here. I got 2 of these heads. I was on a shoot recently, a month ago, last in December. What's so crazy is this place we were shooting at was in Altadena, and I think that house burned up. It was a really cool house, but they were doing something, and they had 2 of these heads, and they just tossed them in the garbage. And I was like, hey, you don't want that? They're like, nah. I'm like, can I have it? They're like, yeah. So I got 2 of these things, and it's like a cosmetology head, you use them to practice cutting hair, but someone shaved the top of the head for some reason. I don't know why, but these are great for making creepy Halloween stuff. Speaking of creepy Halloween stuff, I made a zombie version of myself, which I talked about on the last podcast, where I basically have one of my scans and I just carved it all up to look like a zombie, made it look super, super skinny, holes in the face and stuff. And I 3D printed it and I put it in my window, and it's awesome. It's been up there forever. But I'm going to make some more of them, and I'm going to put them on just Thingiverse. So if anybody wants them, they can download them and print them. But I'll probably do some of those on the stream as well. Glad I caught your stream tonight. Let's talk about machine stuff. I'm 100% down for that. Glad I caught the tail end of this Yeah, me too. I'm glad everybody's stopping by. It's fun. It's fun to chat. It gives me a reason to stay in my chair. I have a hard time sitting here and doing this kind of stuff. I did architectural renderings for a long time, and then before that I was doing graphic design and illustration, all this, and I was at a computer all the time. And I like the work, but I just hate just sitting at the computer so much. So when I sit down, it feels like anything I can do to stay in my seat is good. So kind of having a little bit of live stream on is sort of helpful. But this EV99 that I'm working on now, there's a whole batch of reference photos I need to open that I can't show on the stream. So I'm gonna have to do a portion of this offline. And the same with my, I'm doing a Forlom as well. And then Forlom is, I have a bunch of photos that I can't show, that I have to do some of the stuff. So once I get those pieces sorted, then I can live stream the other parts. And I'll just be doing that. Every time I sit to ZBrush, I'm going to try to be on live stream. So I feel like just doing live streaming has helped my YouTube. I've been like, my live streams don't get tons of views, but my YouTube, apparently, I think YouTube's like pushing my channel since I started doing this more often, which is cool. So that's good. Maybe I can use that to like make some bucks, and then I can do more of this kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling and get back to this thing. And thanks guys for stopping by. And I'll be back probably tomorrow, doing my drone simulator. I think I'm rotating like ZBrush one day, drone simulator the next, maybe both, depending on schedule. I think I'm on a shoot on Friday, so I'll see what time I get home. But all right, thanks guys. See you soon. Bye. Oh, or this. You will be able to reconnect your stream